Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to be exploring a massive, fundamental paradigm shift in how we view marriage. We're drawing from some really detailed source teachings on godly marriage, and we're going to look at how to consciously, intentionally move away from constant stress and step into true, lasting joy. Because, let's be honest here, modern relationships, they can feel incredibly exhausting. You've got the daily grind, the constant miscommunications, the literal weight of carrying your own life and someone else's. It all just kind of piles up, right? If you've ever felt like your relationship has become a source of profound exhaustion rather than a wellspring of strength, well, the material we're unpacking today offers a fascinating, highly structured look at exactly why that happens. And, more importantly, it gives us the blueprint to fix it. We're talking about intentionally choosing happiness over stress every single day.
So let's dive right in with a pretty tough foundational question. Why is an institution that was originally designed for absolute good causing so much pain, frustration, and burnout for so many people today? The source points out that marriage is the most fundamental building block of human society, and yet, it's currently under unprecedented pressure. We really have to stop, take a breath, and ask ourselves honestly, is the way we're operating within our own marriages actually producing the joy we fundamentally desire? Or are we just manufacturing it daily, grinding stress?
It really comes down to this core conflict. On one side, we have what the source perfectly calls the Hollywood fantasy. You know the one. It's that deeply ingrained cultural idea that endless romance, perfect emotional fulfillment, and total completeness will just magically happen the exact second we say I do. We expect our partner to literally be everything. Our therapist, our financial savior, our best friend, our flawless romantic lead, the whole shebang. But then, that fantasy crashes incredibly hard into the modern reality of strife, profoundly unmet expectations, and severe emotional burnout. We walk into marriage expecting an effortless fairy tale, and when reality actually hits and those towering expectations aren't met, the stress levels absolutely skyrocket.
Okay, let's move into Section 1, the happiness myth, unmet expectations.
To really understand why this massive crash between fantasy and reality happens, we need to look at this happiness myth directly. The source actually shares a highly dramatic, real-life anecdote of a pastor's wife to highlight this danger, and wow, it is eye-opening. Her expectations started out resembling a classic fairy tale. She was desperately waiting for her very own Prince Charming to come along, instantly fix all her deep-seated loneliness, and somehow just cure her clinical depression. But when he couldn't do that, because let's be real, no human being has the capacity to play God in someone else's life, her bitterness just deepened drastically. It got so bad that her boiling frustration erupted into literal violence. One evening, completely overwhelmed by her own unmet expectations, she actually threw an entire pot of hot beans right on her husband's head when he walked through the door. No way, right? But it's true. Eventually, these impossible demands brought her near total despair and a mental breakdown. And this was despite her husband actually being a good, faithful man who was genuinely trying to walk in love. So how in the world did she go from throwing kitchenware and facing near suicide to experiencing total joy? Well, the turning point happened when she finally stopped looking to her husband to be her savior. She made a conscious, deliberate shift. She shifted her focus upward, seeking her ultimate emotional and spiritual fulfillment from God instead of constantly demanding it from her spouse. And you know what? When she finally relieved her husband of that impossible, crushing burden of having to make her perfectly happy 24/7, her entire life transformed. By looking to a higher source for her ultimate fulfillment, she actively chose happiness over the terrible stress of forcing her husband to play a role he was literally never meant to play.
This dramatic turnaround brings us to a stark contrast in marital attitudes, forcing us to ask a rather strange but absolutely vital question. Are you acting like a straw in your relationship? The source uses this incredibly vivid analogy of a straw to describe the toxic cultural attitude we've kind of developed toward relationships. Think about it for a second. Often, we approach a partner like they're nothing more than a giant cup of soda. We stick our straw in and we just suck out all their happiness, all their peace, all their energy, desperately trying to fill our own inner voids. And when we finally hear that pathetic slurping sound at the bottom, when they are completely drained, exhausted, and running on empty, we discard them. We just think, well, I guess I need to go find a new drink. This taking approach is the literal definition of manufacturing stress. It is a completely self-centered dynamic that guarantees burnout rather than joy.
Which brings us to Section 2, the power of unity, a 10x multiplier. If the purpose of marriage isn't to just extract happiness from another human being like some kind of emotional vampire, what exactly is it for? According to the source, we need to completely reframe how we view the original design of marriage.
God didn't create a partner for Adam because Adam was just some lonely, deficient, depressed guy who desperately needed cheering up. Actually, Adam was whole and sinless. Instead, marriage was designed from the ground up to create a massive multiplier effect. When two whole people come together in true godly unity, it doesn't just equal two. It yields something like a 10 times multiplier in power, resilience, and effectiveness. This unity was meant to exponentially multiply their positive impact and dominion in the world. It's about building a powerhouse team, for sure, not a codependent rescue mission.
The book of Ecclesiastes underlines this perfectly. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. When you shift your focus toward this kind of powerful, united purpose, everything changes. Happiness simply becomes a beautiful, natural byproduct of your relationship. You don't have to desperately chase it. It just naturally happens as a result of that unity, rather than being a stressful, impossible demand that you constantly hold over your partner's head.
Moving on to Section 3, the root of strife, identifying the cause.
So if building this incredible 10x multiplier effect is the ultimate goal, what's causing all the intense stress that constantly ruins it? What actually breaks that unity? The source boldly underscores the core issue using Proverbs 13:10, which states clearly, "Only by pride cometh contention." Let's break that down for a second. It means that the deep-seated strife in your home doesn't actually come from your partner's annoying flaws, their weird habits, or their failure to read your mind. Contention comes entirely from one single place: pride. Recognizing this fact is absolutely crucial. It's the first step in banishing stress from your home.
The source completely redefines pride for us here, and honestly, this is a massive paradigm shift. Pride is not just walking around with your chest puffed out, acting arrogant and superior. Pride, at its absolute core, is simply ultimate self-centeredness. This means that even being highly insecure, being overly shy, constantly throwing yourself a pity party, or being easily offended, these are all destructive forms of pride. Why? Because in all those states, you are entirely focused on yourself. You're obsessing over how you look, how you feel, how you were wronged, or what people think of you. It's this internal, blinding self-centeredness that invites contention and stress right through the front door of your marriage.
To choose joy over stress, we have to make a major mental shift. We must stop blaming our spouse for our unhappiness. We've got to drop the mindset that says, if only my partner changed, I'd be happy. Instead, we have to embrace the sometimes uncomfortable reality that our own internal self-centeredness is the actual root of the strife. Demanding another beautifully flawed human being to be our perfect, infinite source of happiness is impossible, it's deeply unfair, and it completely destroys that 10x multiplier effect of unity we were just talking about.
Let's look at Section 4, prioritizing marriage, protecting the unity.
Once we stop placing those impossible demands on each other and actually address our own pride, how do we practically structure our lives to prioritize this joy? Well, the source stresses that a godly marriage must take priority over virtually everything else in your life, sitting right below your personal relationship with God. This requires real action. It means actively leaving the dominion of your parents, essentially cutting that emotional umbilical cord so extended family dynamics don't dictate your marital decisions. It means deeply valuing the one-flesh merger, operating as a fiercely united team rather than two independent roommates just passing in the hallway. And crucially, it means putting your family above your career, your hobbies, and yes, even your church ministry. The source gives stark, sobering examples of pastors who literally lost their families because they prioritized saving the world and the needs of their congregation over their own spouses. If you want to keep stress out, you have to aggressively protect the priority of your marriage above all other earthly obligations.
So let's synthesize all of this into actionable steps. This is a literal blueprint for choosing lasting happiness over daily stress. Step 1. Seek your ultimate emotional and spiritual fulfillment from God first. Doing this instantly relieves your partner of that impossible job. Step 2. Accept your mate exactly as they are right now. I mean, when you married them, they were okay, right? Stop letting unmet, completely unrealistic expectations foster a breeding ground for bitterness. And finally, step 3. Choose a giving rather than a taking mentality. Put down the straw. Stop trying to suck the life and energy out of your partner. By following these 3 steps, you actively choose happiness and you start functioning as the joyful, incredibly powerful, united team you were always designed to be.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to consider today. Based on the powerful material we've explored in this explainer, will you continue operating under the happiness myth, desperately demanding that your spouse fix your inner world, ultimately guaranteeing a life of stress and strife? Or will you put aside self-centeredness and consciously choose the joyful multiplying power of true unity?
Because the incredible truth is this: when you finally stop making your spouse responsible for your joy, you give your marriage the freedom to actually be joyful.